Welcome to Rocky Month, everybody. I'm going to be making a review for each Rocky throughout the whole month of November, since all the Rocky movies are usually shown on TV for Thanksgiving. And I think the last review will come out either the day before Thanksgiving or the day of Thanksgiving. I have a lot to say about the series, and this should be a lot of fun. But first I want to let you know that there are going to be spoilers in the reviews. And if you haven't seen the Rocky movies yet, it's not really a big surprise. These really shouldn't affect your opinion. Before we start to talk about Rocky, we're going to have a history lesson. March 24th, 1975 was a unique day for the sport of boxing. Muhammad Ali was on top of the world, and even at 33 years old, he was nearly unbeatable. In the other corner we have Chuck Wepner, who had a nickname as the Bayonne Bleeder due to his sensitivity to cuts. It looked like it would be a lopsided victory for Ali. That is until Wepner knocked Ali down by a hard blow to the abdomen. And it was a shock to everyone watching that Ali looked up at Wepner like he had no idea what had just happened. It turned out that the Bayonne Bleeder would hold up for the rest of the way, and he made it all the way to the last round with Ali, taking a beating, and he was finally knocked down by Ali, and Ali won by technical knockout. You may not think it's an incredible story, but no one thought this guy would last 3 rounds with Ali, and against all odds, he showed his guts and proved everybody wrong. At home, watching the fight on television, was 28-year-old Sylvester Stallone, an actor seeking to make his way into the film industry. Stallone was writing at a young age to make an inspiring story, and he wanted it to be centered around a misunderstood character with missed opportunity. After watching the televised boxing match, Stallone knew exactly what he wanted to create a story around, and Rocky was born. MGM bought Stallone's script on the condition that only he could play the role of Rocky, and MGM gave the production $1 million, which wasn't a big budget at the time. We meet Rocky in a minuscule club ring, as we see he's a struggling ham and egg fighter who takes beatings and supplies even more beatings to other small-time fighters. He wins the opening fight, as we see what his opponent says to him in the locker room after the fight is over.
Hey, you really got lucky today.
I'm sorry, can we see the fight again? Yeah, you're right, he's definitely lucky he pummeled your ass to the ground. We follow Rocky more and find out everyone in town knows him, but he's really at heart a loner. He works for a loan shark as his collector, and even though he's tough on the outside, he shows his sympathetic side early in the movie.
Hey, take the coat. Take the coat. No, you should have planned ahead. You know that? You should have planned ahead.
We'll fake it. I'll tape up the hand like you broke the thumb.
Planned ahead.
Dazzle don't have to know. He won't be wise to nothing. Dazzle won't be wise to nothing. Keep the coat.
This shows that Rocky isn't a one-dimensional character. He's just a guy trying to make a living. He goes to a boxing gym run by a worn-down old man named Mickey, played by the Penguin himself, Burgess Meredith, who does an excellent job as this irritable, tired man.
Hey, shut up. To the body. Right up, boy.
Time! The hell, what do you want?
How you feeling today?
What?
I said, how you feeling?
What are you, a doctor or
What,
something?
you got problems today?
Never mind my problem. What's your problem?
Rocky has a subtle love interest in the shy pet store clerk, Adrian, played by Talia Shire. Rocky tries every day to make Adrian, the pet store clerk, laugh and break out of her shell, and these subtle and casual interactions make a likable relationship between Rocky and Adrian. We meet Paulie, played by Burt Young, Adrian's older brother and a good friend of Rocky, who's a wisecracking, frustrated guy who can't stand Adrian's shyness.
I need a Cadillac to connect with your sister. Something wrong with my face, you know what I mean?
She's a freakaloo.
Hey,
Sometimes she gets me so crazy, I could split her head with a razor.
don't get mental, man, you know.
Well, you caught me in a bad mood.
You're always in a bad mood.
Adrian ain't sharp. Adrian is a loser.
Hey,
She's pushing 30 freaking years old, and if she don't watch out, she's gonna end up dying alone.
I'm 30 myself.
And you're gonna end up dying alone.
Hey, I don't see no crowd around you neither. You
I'd
know
like
what
to
I mean?
kill a freaking moron who broke the mirror. That's
His attitude can be hilarious. He'll go from nice to pissed off to violently pissed off and instantly back to nice. We cut over to the heavyweight champion of boxing, Apollo Creed, played by Carl Weathers. He's the undefeated champ, and after his upcoming opponent sustains an injury during training, he's in the hole as for who to replace for his opponent. And then, when looking into the Philadelphia fighters, he finds Rocky in the books.
This is what I'm looking for. The Italian Stallion.
Rocky Balboa? Never heard of him.
Look, it's the name, man. The Italian Stallion. The media will eat it up. Now, who discovered America? An Italian, right? What would be better than to get it on with one of his descendants?
He's a southpaw. I don't want you messing around with southpaws. Now, they do everything backwards.
Southpaw, nothing. I'll drop him in 3. Apollo Creed meets the Italian Stallion. Sounds like a damn monster movie.
I could see it. In the meantime, we learn about Paulie and Adrian's dysfunctional relationship as Rocky comes over on Thanksgiving.
Tired of you being a loser.
Don't call me that, Paulie.
How do you know I did?
By the way, rumor has it that this will be the most widely...
I won't go.
Why?
Paulie, it's Thanksgiving. I got a turkey in the oven.
You want the bird? Go in the alley and eat the bird.
Oh, Paulie.
I want you out of here. Get out of the house. Go out and enjoy your freaking life.
Rocky takes Adrian out to an ice rink where we learn a little bit more about each character. You would think an ice rink wouldn't even be open on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, to you, but to me it's Thursday, right?
Rocky and Adrian go back to his place, and some real tension between Rocky and Adrian is shown right here when Rocky convinces Adrian to come into his apartment. And this is where the romantic aspect of the story hits its peak. Rocky finds out the next day that Apollo Creed had a business proposition for him, and he heads out to Mick's gym to find out. But this is where Rocky finds out why Mickey is so disappointed in him.
They're probably looking for sparring partners for Creed, you know?
I said that before, you dumb dago.
You know, I've been coming in for 6 years, and 6 years you've been sticking it to me. I want to know how come.
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I want to know how come.
You want to know?
I want to know how.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Because you had the talent to become a good fighter. And instead of that, you became a leg breaker. Some cheap, second-rate loan shark.
It's a living?
It's a waste of life.
Rocky then meets up with a fight promoter who offers him the heavyweight title fight, to Rocky's surprise, and he initially turns it down. But the promoter convinces him this will be his only chance to make it, and Rocky accepts.
He likes you. He wants to fight you. Rocky, it's the chance of a lifetime. You can't pass it by. What do you say?
While watching the press conference on TV, Rocky sees the subtle jealousy that Paulie has for him.
Did I say something?
You didn't say nothing, it's alright.
That's right, you didn't say nothing! Nothing at all!
Yeah, that's subtle for Paulie. Wait till you see him later. Rocky's starting to show his nervousness now that the fight is on the way, and when he gets a visit from Mickey, who's looking to help him as his manager, he lets out all he's got. And from what he says, it sounds like his life stinks.
That's right, it stinks!
I especially like this scene because Rocky comes off as a calm and easygoing guy, but this scene reveals he has a lot built up inside of him, but he quickly apologizes to Mickey, once again proving his good-heartedness. Rocky starts training, and it appears he has a lack of motivation, and feels training is useless for the inevitable. This scene especially shows some of the great cinematography and gritty realistic look that I love in the movie, and who could forget the great soundtrack composed by Bill Conti to this scene. This also shows us the use of Steadicam, which became extremely popular around this time, and the shots it set up are just too perfect to say the least. So Rocky heads into Paulie's work at a meatpacking warehouse. At a meatpacking warehouse where Paulie pisses Rocky off.
You screwing my sister?
I think I'm going home.
Call in here! It is call in here! It stinks in here! You stink!
And through his frustration, Rocky comes up with a unique way to start working on his punches, which is one of the best parts in the movie. Soon after that, Rocky starts getting popular and people even start approaching him.
How about you give us your autograph?
Get out of here!
Get away from my fighter, you knob slobbering skanks.
Rocky soon becomes popular enough for the news to even find him. Hey, Paulie, look! $1 behind a piece of meat! And Apollo's manager notices that Rocky has a dangerous amount of talent, but Apollo just dismisses it without a care because he's too busy.
This boy you're gonna fight on TV. Looks like he means business.
Yeah, I mean business too. It's all in the head.
So, Christmas time comes around, with only about a week left until the fight, and just when you thought Christmas would be peaceful, we find Paulie, who seems to have drank all the eggnog in Philly, as he enters the house and finally shows his jealousy of Rocky.
I don't want you missing her. And I don't raise you to go with this scumbag. Yeah, come on! You wanna hit on me? Come on! I'll break both your arms so they don't work for you. That's right, I'm not good enough to meet with Gazzo. Woo! That's what I think of Gazzo. Now you're a big shot fighter on the way up. You don't even throw a crumb to your friend Paulie. When I go and get your meat every morning, you forgot that night I even give you my sister too.
Only a kid would say that!
I'm a pig. A pig gets you the best. You loser! I don't get married because of you. You can't live by yourself. I put you two together and you look at it. You owe me.
After that violent night, Holy Night, Mickey and Rocky are now determined as ever, and Rocky generously lets Paulie make some money off his name. And now begins the famous training montage. And more great Steadicam shots, ending on the famous stairs of the Philadelphia Art Museum, giving an amazing feel-good attitude and getting us ready for the big fight. Rocky now heads over to the ring by himself, looking at the ring as a destination of a new life for himself, and he's realizing the surreal feeling it gives him. We gear up for the big fight as Apollo makes the event a fucking parade instead of a boxing match.
You know, he's in a boat, riding in a boat. Is he supposed to be George Washington? Obviously so. He's got the hat on, the whole shot. Look at that.
Well, it's been confirmed. The world champion, Apollo Creed.
You have to think, what would Chubb say if he saw this?
You're acting like a damn fool.
We get the one cameo they could afford as we see the great Joe Frazier exchange words with Apollo, which adds to the realism I love from this movie. The fight begins and early on Rocky knocks down the champ, just like the Ali Wetner fight.
Yes, he is.
Apollo is soon to realize there's a lot of heart in Rocky, and this becomes a personal battle, not against each other but against themselves. We get a great montage of the following rounds, showing the brutal beating each fighter is taking. After several tiring rounds, Rocky's knocked down and Mickey tells him to stay down, but Rocky shows his courage and gets up. Then Rocky's swollen eye needs to get cut. This brings us to the final round, where Rocky and Apollo both look like they have severe cases of polio.
They look like they've been in a war, these two.
And as Rocky is approaching a possible knockout,
What do you think about when the 15th round when you're coming out?
We have a split decision for Creed.
You're breaking the jack. Come on, let's go, buddy. Come on.
Adrian! Adrian!
Rocky!
Hey, where's your hat?
I love you!
I love you.
I love you! I love you!
So that's Rocky, everyone. A great movie that will always stand the test of time. The plot isn't amazing, but being tied around Rocky just makes it easier to relate to him because he's one of us. A guy who's screwed up here and there in life, and he gets the opportunity we all dream of. Not to mention the writing is terrific and the performances by all the actors are even better. It's not even about us rooting for the boxer. It's about us rooting for the person outside the ring. It's a story about triumph, your dreams, and realizing them. With top-notch acting, writing, cinematography, and everything else as well, Rocky becomes an unforgettable film for its inspiring and motivated outcome.